Yes, family, on a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever on a day. And welcome to the platform Then and Now Media Empire. Me really talk so, me now host and presenter, Mohamed Kamara, commonly known as Supermed. And today, na Sunday, the 16th of May, 2021. As soon as they see in the background, the CEO and founder of the Then and Now Media platform, they with me today, when I'm Mr. Prince Emil Kroma. What they can do today, we'll get a program, a new program, basically, all the time for come up with what we call a week in review. We can talk about things that we don't pass throughout the week now in country Sierra Leone. Very important for now follow the conversation, now follow the discussion, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to urge you now, although this program will not be advertised wide and openly, now they can the platform. I want to urge you now, let us begin share them immediately, different platforms. So we'll get plenty Sierra Leoneans will join me for this national conversation. Very important, ladies and gentlemen, because waiting Sierra Leone is a responsibility. My Sierra Leone, my responsibility. Your Sierra Leone, your responsibility. We therefore make sure say we involve by waiting happen in our country because the ramifications are overwhelming. When we not get yourself involved, when we left with country to people them, we not get the capacity or we not get the love for still that country there, that a trajectory we go benefit all man. Trust me, we all go suffer. Then like today, we all know what's not the complaint, the gun dry, Tintranga, the bread and butter issue. So all about now the country, in any peak, if they east, if they west, if they north, if they south, the bread and butter issue will affect we all. And in fact, even if you're in the diaspora, the bread and butter issue will affect you. Because when you somebody will be send for $100, $50 per month, will be manage. Now that $100 they not do. So the balance will be keep na corner na Ikiti. So they get for the go pinch another $50 back for car add for send for the mammy and chop money. So that bread and butter issue, wherever you dey, what's you na Sierra Leonean or you get interest to Sierra Leone, it affect you self. So that make for join this conversation, we make sure say we all people in authority accountable. Like where I say, this is a new test program where it's going for bring a week in review. And the CEO and founder of the platform says with me, Mr. Prince Emil Kroma. But before I say anything, I want to hand over first to Mr. Prince Emil Kroma. Let's go say adieu to family. Mr. Prince Emil Kroma, over to you, sir.
Yes, Supermed, many thanks for that. Your brilliant submission to the general public and Fambulem. I want to bring on a warm greetings, as Supermed just said, just for reiterate that move today. Many blessings and warm greetings from the media empire then and now. The national conversation is picking up steam, and this is what we want to emphasize, the pick up steam. And we want to let Fambule understand what in this national conversation is really about. They get different different strata, if you go like, because what I mean by this, you get people where they read something from one end or one point of view, and another people where they read something else from another point of view. But what is important is the country as a whole. So despite respective sides them way we most likely they represent or they promote, even though some of us may not understand what we actually promote, then in our media empire, they tend to bring the rightful information them to people them so that people them may understand, should understand, will understand when they try to talk about something, is something where they kind of understand before they make a decision on that. Fambulem, the most important thing is the national conversation is on. This national conversation which is on is so important for the soul of we country. Remember, say we country, they go at a crossroad. This is not the first time, but at this point is so critical. So those of us who be on social media, either MSM or SM, is kind of really important that we provide information out there to we people so that we people can be able to process that information for make decisions which are based on informed choices. So like Supermed say, it's almost like a new situation in which we try to promote a weekly review of things that we do na the media not only on the then and now, but naturally on SM, the short form for social media. And there were many things said over the week. So Supermela, I'll just leave that back over to you again and go wait and see how you process that.
Okay, thank you very much once more again, Mr. Prince Emile Kroma. Like what we say, this is a weekend review. One thing I want to talk to fam with them about today, now that NACA registration where they go on. When they say they register people, them this now for register all manner salon, even people where you born today 1 minute, they want to register them for so that they will give them a national identification number. We in the West and other countries, they call a social security number, sometimes they call a national insurance number. Now they try for do so. But again, now this make, as they say, let the conversation continue. Now they talk about anything else. So very important. When they do this registration, they allocate certain amount of days for freedom, where it gets nearly 2 million people. And we see the struggle because one them person, some center of people they go, it take nearly 40-50 minutes for verify or register one person. So just imagine if you get for register up to 2 million people, and the centers are not plenty. People the people they register people at the centers, they're not plenty. Even it was so bad, the number was so bad that they don't register in short way that the government say okay, they'll extend them by 1 week. But at this, I want to take today at tax to Famulem, let people understand this thoroughly. Because I had to call all the other political parties themselves, including the consortium of political parties, but we don't come together where that all the oppositions come together. May let's stress this seriously to the people and to government, make government understand, say, this has to be a continuous process. Because I give you an example, me in a business, somebody, and they do me business, maybe I go buy me markets in Liberia, or maybe I go sell me markets in Conakry. I don't go this registration, maybe don't go. I don't go, I get for go take the 4-5 weeks. Why can now the registration almost done on a freedom? So how does that, how the people go capture the majority of the population when they want to capture by this registration? It's almost impossible. Even if all people turn out for go register, the centers are not beaucoup, the people who they register at the center, they're not plenty. You see, and this is a good project. And I believe say the donor partners themselves, when they work with government, also get for realize. Say if you want to do a national registration like this, where you want to register everybody in the country, this is not like national electoral registration, from people who are valid for votes, maybe from 18 upwards. This picking says when I want the old picking, while you register. No, that means that the whole population they want to register. And if you go allocate 10 days, now you don't add another 7 days, that is not going to be enough. That is not going to. Government and people in authority and people who run that department if they don't understand, say, Papa government, this is not going to be enough. This is going to be an overwhelming challenge. And people are worried as well. People from different political parties and worried say, wait, so are these people going to be, maybe they're not going to do the census, or maybe they're not going to do all that they want to do. Are they going to use this NACA registration, the data, for pass them on to NAC, for the NAC monitor for the registration come election time, when at 2022 and 2023? You know, again, the word they can't have in mind all the time when they talk about NTSO, it's about sincerity. Government sincere enough to understand, say, then can't see not what way they do overnight. Again, I was saying a good initiative. Because like what they say, now the one on one now, people are by the number them. It's easy for digitalize so that you go know all the cities that we get in your country, you go now go able to target resources for mid-10 citizens. And how people they go, how people they come, you know, say they bomb picking them, people they die. So they able to delete them as they go and people they come add new numbers them. So these are all very, very irrelevant and important things. But there shouldn't be an ulterior motive behind them. Because what you do, not for the benefit of all man, not for the benefit of the country. Government has to be genuine and call people, the urgent man will get the opportunity. Do your way they free to, not for go register. Not for go register. Because in the long run, if this work and sincerity campaign, it will benefit you all. So again, Mr. Prince Emile Kroma, maybe you go hang up most by this particular topic and this registration where they go on. Over to you, sir. Mr. Koma, you get for unmute yourself. I think you unmute.
Many thanks, Mr. Mohammed Supermed Kamara, one of the emerging brilliant minds of our time. Until we know, say, the minds of people can develop, especially when you're so determined for develop that. And we can see the brother, they make leaps from 0 to 1, from 1 to 10. And I'm not mincing this. I'm not making this sound cheesy. But of course, this is just reality because they play out now with very eyes. And it just articulates something just in a way kind of, in no doubt, will resonate with the minds of the people, not the country. So while somebody else or one entity, they make we for understand, say, an exercise that has been carried out is judiciously being done, is democratically being done, there are questions that are not being addressed, and I think that the brother try to articulate. I want to push on beyond that and more on that. So we know, say, all of what in the brother talk, therefore do something which with democratic process, which is quite important. And this democratic process, then what will they talk about? Over the period of time, in the few months, maybe 12 months, 24 months, or even 36 months, if we want to put them at most, we get issues that we would only talk about, because remember I said this is not a week in review, but a week in review does encompass or encapsulate most of the things that we would only talk about, whether or not the non-decentralization policy, which a large body of the people where we interview or don't talk to say it's not a good policy by the GOSL, which is the government of Sierra Leone, whether or not corruption we talk about now about the ACC. In other words, talking about them focusing on emerging allegations by the Africanist press, and especially off-budgetary expenditures related to the office of whether the First Lady, whether the Chief Minister, or even the President himself, and the sole sourcing of goods and services, as well as higher travel costs. Remember, I said when they talk about the week in review, we'll talk about Boku things them. We also want to highlight the role of religious leaders then in terms of this national conversation that we are having, and the role of CSOs, civil society. They are supposed to be key in addressing the impunity and gross human rights violations with shown in our country. There is also a need for a strategic alliance of political parties, or there was a need, because it seems like this strategic alliance where people have been calling for quite a while is now seem to be gaining some kind of a leverage or some kind of fruition, because with everybody COPPP, which is the Consortium for Progressive Political Parties. So there was a need, and there is a need, for a strategic alliance of political parties and civil society movement, and also media activists, such as Wetimi and Mr. Mohammed Kamara Ele, aka Supermed, are doing. It's consonant, it's, we sort of complement each other for the greater good of the country. So yes, there is absolutely a necessity, we they try to project some kind of an image, moving from something where they become kind of prevalent now in society, which is, how do you call it, identity-based politics, who they try to shy away from because it's not good for our country. And there is so much more. So the brother talk about registration, NACRA, which is just one of the conversation that we are talking about. You see, brother, these things, they get steps by which you can take them. And when you take them position there, it can resonate with the greater public. And if it does not resonate with the greater public, which means that it's not been sold out enough for people and for buy them. Because remember, say, this is part of the conversation. You try to introduce something, and then you sell them out to the people, and the people and buy them because it's necessary. It's part of the democratic will of the people. But in this case, which you talk about, I don't think from waiting we don't source out, and you go know this because we run this program together, we talk to people and together, we get the feedbacks together, it's not resonating well. In other words, the people are suspect of a system which doesn't seem to be in their interest or benefit them at all. So what intermediary is people are not responding to this call for registration because it seemed like dubious. I can't use a more kind of language, and respectfully so, I do in this case, which is it appear like, say, the entire process is dubious. But I will leave that to you again. Over to you, Mr. Kamara.
Yes, thank you once more again, Mr. Prince Semikoma, for them key points away highlights, like where they say through this conversation. I make you say, ladies and gentlemen, at the chat room, we continue for share, let people get involved by this conversation because it's very important as well. Because all this, why you they say the dubious intention behind them, because people they say, but government don't just put what they call for census. That's another counting exercise we get for take place. Now they say certificate don't mature in the parliament. We see the process will take place in the parliament. We see the brouhaha, we see the chaos. Now the speaker don't present the certificate to president, say yes, this don't mature, the census can go on. Now the census is there waiting. Now there's a NACA registration. So people in fact are also confused. So what's they go on? Is the census going to happen? Because all the experts, they will know about census business. Statisticians, they when are experts and then feeling they say, well, this is almost impossible for you able to do for meet up the 2023 parliamentary and presidential elections. And we don't see NAC don't put the timetable for all that. Because in census, they say you have to do what they call cartography. That alone maybe go drag you to an year. Then you also don't forget the staffs involved, you don't forget the laws. So there's many things involved. You know, and governments, whether the resources get for come from donor partners, so on and so forth, all of this one. So many people are so suspicious and confused. And again, there was no proper marketing system or communication system through government will say, okay, this is not the exact motive of what they go on, clear explanation where people will understand and people will satisfy with. Say, no, if this not can they go on, we're not going for use them, we're not going for use the data for NEC, for election. Well, clarify these points. And you get the communication apparatus, Ministry of Information and Communication. And you also get the strategic communication you need to be within that ministry there. There are plenty of people in where government they pay for bringing information out. But then those information are not reaching the people. Either maybe through the people they do them effectively, or there's some lackluster in their own part for bringing that information into the people. Or maybe it's a deliberate attempt for confused people, for make people not understand what thing they happen. And again, I tell people like you and me, so thank you plenty. What will they bring this conversation to people? What will they talk to people? Because, you know, what thing they go on now in country? How we country, then they govern we country, if for be with paramount concerned. Because I always say this, there is no room now for saying they mix for politics. Because almost anything they do, a part of God, we all believe in God, a part of God, now government. Decision when government take, it affects me and you, we all. So we have to get involved. We go for ask government why you want to take decision A, not decision B. Because according to what they see, they don't say decision A, it's not good for we. It's not good for we. And this is very important, ladies and gentlemen. For now, we continue that kind of conversation. Now we continue for a license here to government, say, Papa government, what you do, you go for doing for the interest of the people. You get there for look after me and we all that the country day. No matter whether interest would vote you, would not vote you in. So this NACRA, where you say you want to give national identification number to all Sierra Leoneans. Like what they say, maybe in America they call them national security number. Europe they call them national insurance number. This number like you full identification. Now good initiative. But Papa government no use ulterior motives behind this registration. This registration cannot be done within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. No. And then they call on the consortium of political parties again for men and raise their voice about this issue. So this will be a continuous process. Say you capture all manner of the country. Say you get 90% or upwards of everybody. Right now, according to the first information they get, say, the first allocation and give the first 10 days when they say, then they do na free term. Then barely get up to 20% of the people. And now they say they had 7 days. That in itself, in a way, they do something constantly. The same thing, and they expect different results. Unfortunately, this is what I call insanity. Because if I don't know, say, well, if I get less than 20% of the people, where I be get almost this 10 days or so, now I get 7 days. Will I get any more? Probability is no. So think about another way where I go able to make sure, say, I get plenty people where go able to register for this process. We're going to make sure, say, we capture so many Sierra Leoneans because for the benefit of all. And that is important. And again, this is a movement to the census. We all don't talk about this census business. And again, before I move to the census, Mr. Prince Emil Kuma, I want to bring your attention to an interview where plenty of people will talk about na social media, where presidents do na CNN. Now one lady when they call Zen Asha in program na CNN, where they ask them some question in diminu and respond. I don't know if you want to go much time before I go elaborate any further.
Yes, definitely. I would like for touch on that. And I thank you very much because you bring this kind up. You bring this particular thing up because why? It's relevant to the national conversation that we President His Excellency Julius Maada Bio was on an international media expressing the will of the people that we elect them. How do we see them? So it's a relevant conversation. But if you go permit me, Mr. Supermed, you also touch on something very, very significant, which is in terms of domestic politics. In other words, there are many issues regarding with domestic politics, but one of the key things that we touch on, I want Rob Mott on at this midterm census, if you will permit me. Okay.
Absolutely.
One of the things them about government or any entity within the political strata is one of sincerity to the people that we elect you, from whom you derive your powers from. So without belaboring, let's just go straight to the point where I want to make about this midterm census, because this is quite key. And we see that it play out before we quite recently in an ugly, ugly fashion, Mr. Kamara. So first of all, political party them. Remember, say not to government no more, one political party no more, or one political party now in the run with government. No. You get many other political parties then within nascent democracy. 17 of them, 4 or 5 of them are in parliament, in other words, very effective in shaping the direction where we country they go. And the other 12 or 13 are supposed to be part and parcel of that project, because in terms of democracy, them party there or political parties not necessarily means that they get for day in government, but they are part and parcel of the structure of a governance system where they help for shape the direction in which a country they go democratically, kind of speaking. So on the midterm census, these parties them, or many parties them, they sort of oppose to the exclusion on the midterm census. In other words, structures were meant to be in place, or whether these structures that were in place, or if they were in place, they not embrace the political party they are, Mr. Mohammed. They did not. And as such, then other political party they are, they're opposed to that because they say, if the structure exists, we should exist and not embrace them. That in itself, in part of what you submit to the general public tonight, raise eyebrows as to whether the process itself is an open process or is a process which should be trusted. So what they say is not, because why? They hold the government accountable. It's like, why are we not part of the process? Why are we excluded from the proposed midterm census structures? Why are we not part of the preparation and planning processes? They said those things, and this is quite a while ago, okay? And when they talk about the structure, Mr. Supermed, these are the things, sir. One, you can forget a Census National Advisory Committee. You have to. And that committee, they will be made up of them people that we will talk about, whether not political parties, then which are supposed to form the structures of the process. You can't forget a technical committee meetings. In other words, people who form part of the structure of the governance system have to be part of these technical committee meetings in which they will be part of the conversation, Mr. Superman, if you know what I'm saying, sir. Okay? There has to be a publicity committee. I named the 3 key components there for provoke an argument or a thought process for see whether these processes are necessary, and of course they are, because they're supposed to be part and parcel of the process in terms of confidence building, so that questions where you ask or proposition them where you make will not be considered had these things been taken into effect. So there are no questions because there is sincerity. But no, in terms of the publicity committee, you tell me, were there any? Or if there were, did it involve the others in inverted commas, sir? Did it? The technical committee meetings, were they held? If they were, did it involve the others or was it just one-sided? Was there a census national advisory committee? Were there? These are all critical questions. Well, I'll move forward quickly, Mr. Kamara. So the midterm census, we see the fracas we play out because we can fast forward them, but some of us saw this coming because not everybody agreed as to the processes and procedures because they were always questionable, sir. They were always questionable. So what we see and try for bulldoze this now parliament. You understand parliamentary leverages far more than I do because even though you didn't take up that opportunity was never granted to you, but now something where you study, you know, in total, and you're always there in contact with people and we occupy them position and always they get advice and things of that kind. So this was never part of the process, Mr. Kamara. And this is what I'm trying to say. So when they finally taken to parliament, now forgo bulldoze them into parliament, if you know what I mean. And such, it seemed like, and we can suggest this, if I provoke a reaction, I expect the kind of reaction I go get, and it go play in my favor. So you violate all other things leading to that process day. And when you finally take on it almost technical, what you didn't anticipate, that's what you got because the process wasn't fair enough. So you can't go there, you try for bulldoze a process which wasn't fair, Mr. Kamara. It wasn't fair at all. So the midterm census is supposed to influence the process of determining how we revisit political boundaries, Mr. Kamara. Delimitation, ward constituencies. These are things the way you understand far more than I do, and I speak on public record because why you've been part of the process. Most people don't know, say you attempted to become an MP and you don't study all of these things. The delimitation process, constituencies and districts, wards, and etc. Okay? So we also know, say, that the existing 2015 population census, Mr. Kamara, it provides some kind of an information which remain the primary source for political boundary delimitation for the purpose of 2022-23 national elections. So it's not like we don't know these things. But it's like some people that they try for force these things into we head in a different direction. And me and you know this as part of the Then and Now program, which the boundary on which we stand, the platform on which we stand is like information is power. So what we know is righteous, we try for provider out there for the people. And once the people are informed, we know that they become empowered, which I think is what we are partly doing here tonight. Over to you.
Okay, thank you once more again, Mr. Prince Emile Kuma. And you chose some very, very crucial points. First of all, the parliamentary procedures. We're going to say standing orders in parliament. Now, the way our parliament is run, because the speaker and be strenuously try for explain something completely different. Say, oh, this now a presidential proclamation, another for no. The thing is very clear. Yes, now a presidential proclamation. We get for go to go if Parliament want pull them out, get for be a 2/3 majority. That is all well understood. But the process and procedures in the Parliament is run to what they call a standing SO standing orders, parliamentary procedure and processes. That was not followed. Even the way it's saying go lay the waiting in corner Parliament, the maze be done, it not be there. So all of these procedures has to be followed, and then they because of a reason. And they were completely bulldozed, as you said. You know, they just don't no more say, okay, don't just do any kind of way no more. It doesn't matter if this not right, this not right. As far as we do, where we pull the paper, just about 21 days, the proclamation has become law. But again, this is setting a very, very wrong precedent. You know, when you set something, you don't set the bar for the next person where they come. Now, it make you always get for think for the interest of the country, because the president today, not for the president forever. This one, how they can, so we all they go. We go pick you, go Gampino, they follow we. Now we set a foundation for them going forward. That is what current administration understand. Say, okay, we go those do all things, but if other people come back, and they will just follow that same thing and we continue, but never move forward. So that was very, very disappointing. And again, we see the same thing in the way how the all census thing come about, how they do them without those exactly those committees. We say we for involved all political parties them as an advisory committee. We go watch and see say and the arguments they are making are yes, the president could make call for a midterm census, because census in itself, if it be 10 years, the could make in 2015, the next one 2025. But the president can call for a midterm census, but really there is caveats there. If but them put both there, because now for certain reasons, then we can forget tangible reasons. But again, now people are asking, say, what's not the tangible reason that we're president right now for call midterm census? Really, the reasons are not there. You go say, okay, we want to do something for make sure say it targets how for health population, how for plan for the country, and so on and so forth. But again, the only thing that going to confuse people is that when you do that, the time frame. If we don't come 2018, you say, okay, well, 2019, I'm beginning. Maybe you almost get time. But now it's 2021. You get election when they come 2022, 2023. So you not get the time. So anything we're going to do, the people who will say, I'm saying, it's very, very disingenuous. You try for do for create an advantage for yourself. And that sincerity very, very important. And government for understand, say, what did they do now? Not for now, not for tomorrow. We picking up, great can picking them. Now we responsibility now, we prepare our country inside the 21st century. Even all kind of problem we don't get. But don't put them like trajectory. Well, great can picking up get for coming. We'll say yes, we forefathers and do something what we say will benefit today. Because the world is moving rapidly. The world not get time for wait for we say who said that we'll get when act together. If we get we act together or we not get we act together, the world is moving ahead. So we are calling again on these people in authority, say, Papa government, we not only think of today, we not think of tomorrow. We not think of we country going forward. Nowadays, country people not get time for wait for country not ready yet for prepare themselves. They not get time. The world is moving rapidly ahead. We go for join that trend, or we'll be left behind. But again, I mean, a topic this way, we will continue to talk about over and over again. But one other topic I want to raise or bring out to your attention again, people who can refer to as a fourth estate, when are we all? And again, they say thanks to me and you and many, many social media activists, where who say they come in and join for help sensitize and bring conversation to the people. We see by the end of the month of Ramadan, governments give journalists them. The young quota arrest, this and that. I mean, there's no, you will say, okay, they not commit no crime. But does this set a good precedent? Does this set a good picture? Because them people here, then for them at the forefront for all government accountable and bring kind of information into the populace. So what if you say that particular donation, how you see them? How you say people in the public and the population at large see them, where Sludge go accept that donation.
Again, another very brilliant overview and perspective, and requesting one which definitely needs to be addressed. And I will talk about that shortly. But if you can permit me, one or two other key issues about the okay. Family need to understand, because what they do on this platform now for provide information to the people, and people need to understand exactly what's going on. As and when we get the info, we put them out there. So family need to understand or ask question, why has Statistics Sierra Leone, or why was, because that was then, Statistics Sierra Leone excluded nearly 80%. 80%. That's a whopping number. Imagine 100%, 80% of registered political parties were excluded in such a politically sensitive public policy issue. Why were they? The reason why I ask this again in perspective is like when you make your submission earlier on, it sounded like suspect, or if people will have suspicions of some of the things. Here they are. Then provide the grounds for it. That 80% of registered political parties in a national entity are excluded from this conversation. Anyway, and another thing again, what we want to make Fambule for understand, waiting some of them try for do to we, or we people them, is try for confuse we in the middle. And I think, say, you spoke to that. Earlier on, you say, the president, he get it right, constitutionally speaking, for call for a midterm census any time of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year. That's a constitutional right, it's given. But the same constitution does provide a wherewithal for but and if. So there are conditions. It's not like it's blanket. So once the presidents don't derive that, next, there are a couple of violations. And this is exactly what happened when play out in the parliament. Because the president declare or make the pronouncement, say, I want a midterm census. But the constitution equally say, Mr. President, after this given amount of days, I remember I've been doing some program, somebody take me up on that, but apparently nobody understand that, yes, the president, everybody agreed. The president can declare the midterm census. That's not right under the constitution. But the same constitution say, after a period of time, if that is not gazetted, if that is not, then it becomes null and void. And I think, say, that's part of the problem. But either it been deliberate where they can't go to parliament because then they expect to attract some negative reaction, which we see play out in a parliament. But again, Mr. Kamara, interestingly, let me go to some of the points then where you just touch on now. Let me just go to some of them points then. There are many things where they happen in our country, my brother. Many, many, many things. And then many things then they need for be addressed, okay? The president been there on CNN quite recently, and I believe saying that you ask, waiting a review about that interview the way they hold on an international platform. And the president was not graceful enough, my brother. He was not graceful enough. Because those of us who happen for being media analysts, whether professionally, amateur, and etc., even by amateur level, the president was not graceful enough. We do know that our president is not an artful, A-R-T-F-U-L, speaker. He is not. But he was given the opportunity many times on that platform day for speak to the many issues where they affect in people. And because leadership is about your people, policies that you are effecting, enacting, where they impact the lives of the people. And as far as me and you know, and the general populace know, the lives of our people are not being impacted positively. We know this. There is massive poverty. There's poverty on the horizon. It's spelled out there. Our people are not happy. The president was given the opportunity on an international media, only for the president to go on this international media and made a mockery of democracy. I know most of them are not going to like it, but what other way can you characterize that? What really play out on CNN? That was a mockery of democracy, because if you cannot speak the truth, because the president was very economical with the truth in that interview, we know the reality on the ground. It wasn't representative of what the president was speaking to. The issue of bread and butter, which they champion, our people are not benefiting from it. The issue of what they told us quite recently in terms of inflation, the number of inflation or digits being reduced from double to single, is not impacting or reflecting on the lives of our people. These are just facts. You can't argue them, they're just facts. If you want to argue them, it's simply because you want to argue to defend one side as against righteousness. So no. So the president's interview, if I may address directly what you just asked, Mr. Kamara, was unimpressive. That was really unimpressive. And one of the reasons or things that I would point out to when I say unimpressive is like the interview on the questions that were asked on CNN were no different from questions that some of our domestic audience have asked. Umaru Fofana asked the same question, but you could see the body language between when Umaru Fofana asked the same question that CNN asked and the response of the president. When Umaru Fofana asked the question to the president was given an opportunity to either own up and explain to the Sierra Leonean people 3 years of your tutelage, 3 years of your governance. What have you brought? What respite have you brought to the Sierra Leonean people? That is what was key. This is what was important. The president blew it. And this was not the first time Umaru Fofana gave him the chance. 98.1, with all of their question marks and confliction, what's the name? I think Asma. Asma asked the president if we looked at Asma's body language. That was so critical, Mr. Kamara. It's like, Mr. President, but the people are saying, the people are asking, what do you say? The president didn't get it. He didn't get it when Asma asked. He didn't get it when Umaru Fofana asked. And Umaru Fofana doubled down by asking the same question and even trying to help the president. When Umaru Fofana asks issues, politically speaking, are supposed to be of the country as a whole, what did the president say? And Umaru Fofana say, your wife she's not political. In other words, she wasn't elected. So she's irrelevant, with all due respect, sir. She's irrelevant to this conversation. We're talking about people like Madame Lara Piaz-Taylor and her report and the entity which she represents as opposed to a country. And the presidency went and talked to me, where if you're waiting and say and what have you. Can you imagine, Mr. Kamara? And this is the same thing that the president took to an international platform. Just that this time, he was a little bit more contrite. He was a little bit more submissive and humble because he was talking to an international platform instead of being recalcitrant and pointing to, what's his name, Umaru, and saying, you're waiting and say about my wife. If not be you, you go take that and what have you, even though Umaru asked him back. That was an opportunity. He blew it off. Did you expect something different from the CNN interview? No. So my question to you now is, recently you hold a very huge and bold conversation in terms of the national conversation just yesterday, barely 24 hours ago. The ink on that interview has not even dried out yet. It was a brilliant interview, but of course, many people, different people get different idea as to how you conduct the meeting, the questions where you ask, how the respondents then respond. But it was a brilliant meeting because what you do, you bring multiple stakeholders, massive stakeholders. Not many a times do you see that. You bring them come on one platform and you were able to ask them and etc. There are others listening to this program now and subsequently will listen later what you go say, Nabi, you aim, what you been try for bring out of these people, what you gain out of that interview day, what you suppose, what you suggest, what did you think you didn't do that you could have done, and things like that.
Okay, thank you again once more, Mr. Prince Emikoma. And it's very important before I respond to what you just asked, make us say you give a solid analysis of the presidency interview. I believe say many people then go and give their own judgments now in relation to that, but you give a very solid analysis, and that is very, very important going forward. Again, yes, like what you say yesterday, and thanks to you and so many other people, the interview yesterday, I think in terms of social media, now the diaspora from Sierra Leone angle, that was one of the biggest assembly of key stakeholders from one entity where we don't manage for do when are the main opposition party. And again, people, this is not only for the opposition parties them or people that will belong to certain parties, the APC, the NGC, and so on and so forth. The aim here is the opposition party, for let democracy work in any country, the opposition party has to be opposition party, has to be strong. Now, one of the key cogs is one of the key contributing factor to the democracy of any country. You cannot, if you not get opposition at any country, that country, they go call it a democracy, but not a democracy. The opposition for strong, and for able to oppose, and for able to hold government accountable, then for able to do their own thing, for prepare themselves, so that next if the opportunity arises of the people that wants them, they say they will take over the reins of governance. So opposition has to be government in waiting. So we see many challenges in the main opposition party. We give the inspiration for say, okay, let's bring these key stakeholders, some of these key stakeholders together. Make them go get a dialogue. But why make this dialogue be an open dialogue? You know, transparency is very important in a democratic state as well. Make it be an open dialogue. Many people say be present at that table. Because I'm telling you, most of the table, we the ordinary people are not there. We're not present. It's done in this dingy backroom deals and so on and so forth. So now we bring them come now an open forum where the people and the general masses, the population, self go see what's in they go on, go hear from them directly. What's in they go on. So that was the main motivation behind that particular program yesterday. I mean, people would have their own say from all different perspectives, because now most of the time we tend to look at things from a political lens. You know, it's very important for us to also focus on the Sierra Leone lens. Sierra Leone is a country, a nation, the people of Sierra Leone. We all know now, say, where they talk about the bread and butter issue, the dire economic situation of the country, how it affects we all. So sometimes we need to look at things from that trajectory. So we know, say, yes, this is for the interest of all. So the program, like I said, was mainly to establish that fact, ask the people, some of these key stakeholders to say, why this thing they go, why are the first challenges there within una party? Because we the people, they look up to una. Because I can say many people now, I could say that categorically, many people not happy about the direction the country go right now. So they're looking for an alternative. And they're thinking, okay, maybe the previous administration will be done this safe. Maybe what will be the experience, a different what will the experience now. So this could be an alternative. So they look forward to una. And but they see them challenge and they see them chamot the yasu. They worry, they're confused, they thinking, say, are these people prepared? What is the problem? What's going to happen? So this is why some strategic people and key people come up together and say, okay, this program has to come up, and they find no other platform other than the Then and Now Media Empire, because they know say the Then and Now Media Empire stand for the interest of Sierra Leone. Now, an open forum will stand for the interest of all Sierra Leoneans, for the betterment of Sierra Leone. So they choose this particular forum for can have that dialogue day. And we take go thank you, despite some of the internet challenges, and when all of these things we're talking about, I say they deal about it, because this is 21st century. Communication is very, very important. You know, they find all challenges they know they face. The conversation went on well, and we get very, very good reviews, hundreds of good reviews, where people say, yes, We happy you want to bring Canadian people there. We happy what we hear. You don't know what they go on. We don't hear people that try for fast solutions. And then people that don't highlight some of them challenges they are so. So we then now more in the know. People are know what's in the happen right now. Instead of being confused, being in the dark. So God willing, we go continue for Brinkham Short program na this platform. And it's very important. With the old ladies and gentlemen them do, we always look out for flyers them, for what they can share them here. So don't invite many people there, because this now it just short 1 hour discussion with time for all, for review on what we don't do throughout the week and what's in the happen in our country. And so many other aspects of with society. Like where I say, it's my say I don't, it's my responsibility. Say I don't, it's your responsibility as well. And the government also get for no say I don't, is a paramount purpose and responsibility, including all the other things where encompasses the state. So again, we always calling on them, we always urge them, say, sincerity is very important. Honesty. We not do something for the good of the society. If we not work for the people, if you move in the country to the right trajectory, you don't have to worry about elections, because the people will move towards you. We've seen examples of countries, of leaders, even in Africa, and now the people are moving towards them. It's sad that we give example to the late president of Tanzania, late President Magufuli. We saw the election he just won. And now with all the propaganda against him, majority of the people went out there and voted for him and his party, because they know he's moving the country to what they expect him to do. And this is very, very important, Sierra Leoneans. Let we continue for keep this conversation going. Let we continue for highlight these things to our populace. And let government know, say, me and you, we all understand what's in the go on. Let we play, we go live. So if I reach here, but I pay like what you say, this is not just a short weekly review. I want to hand over back to you for conclude, but I think the week over, as far as then now is concerned, has been a huge success. And we hope to bring to the people again more and more major success in time to come. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Many thanks. And just pick up from where you ended, which is then and now, it's no longer, about the journey. We understand the journey. It's about the destination. We haven't arrived yet, but definitely if you understand the journey, which means that you're going to arrive. And this is where we are. Thank you so much, Supermed. And thank you to many viewers then, like we say, this was just a program about the week in review, how we see things from other ends, but twin in with what we do, including the massive interview just held yesterday. In fact, this week we've had two major interviews. You can't take that away from the Den and Now Media Empire. The first one was the consortium of progressive political parties headed by Madam Femi Claudius Cole, with other individuals them as well, every party. And then just barely 24 hours ago, we had Supermed hosting one of the most massive interviews in terms of the conglomeration of, even though not one party, but all these huge stakeholders around a table of people that will get dissenting views, which is good in many respects, but bring them come to one platform and then have a conversation with them. That was massive. This is history in the making. This cannot be taken. This is legacy. You might not like it, but there's not much that you can do about it. It's just real. But anyway, having said this, we don't come to the end of this Lily conversation where we say we go do for an hour and we on the hour mark. But this is the Den and Now Media platform, and there are many more things to come. We are open to suggestions, to proposals, whatever you get for say, make a known. You can call Supermed privately. The email addresses are available publicly. I do get calls all the time, as opposed to Supermed, they get calls all of the time as well, people are suggesting people may not agree with the style and what have you. We do understand this, as long as it's not based on a degree of biasness. And it's well taken. That's how we try for perfect the art. And as human, it will never be perfect, but we can only try for put them on an incremental level. Many, many thanks to una all for watching. But we want to let una know that the national conversation is on. We will not relent on that basis. Then and now go provide the thrust. We go trailblaze in terms of this conversation. Family, like we say again, and I borrow this. Every good thing must come to an end. Every beginning has got an end. Everything that goes up must come down. Every life will end. On this basis, I want to say thank you to una all and una goodbye until we see una and advise the next set of program again. Superman, any last word?
Yes, again, Miss, I just wanted family, thank you plenty for the constant support of this platform. Anytime, any program, they're always there, they're sharing, and they bring in plenty people on this platform. So they deserve plenty thanks from we. So family, say another day, una good night. God bless you all, and God bless Sierra Leone.
God bless you all, and goodbye. Good night. Thank you.